hear us okay? Perfect.
Great. We wanted to get you a little woken up this morning, so here we go. So I'm Letha Filderman. I'm the president of PopTech, and we would love to welcome you here. We're delighted you took time out of what we know are busy schedules to join us. And we've spent the last year or so really looking at this phenomena of the reach and exponential power of networks, and everybody sitting in this room really exemplifies that. You know, there are people here that are harnessing networks for enterprise, for humanitarian issues, and to solve some of the really tough problems that are confronting us. So we're delighted you're with us, and we're going to learn a lot from you, and we hope you learn a little bit from us along the way. As Howard said in the opening part of the video, this notion of networks is not new. It goes, if you look back to the dawn of humanity, human beings operate in tribes, communities, and networks. That's how we've survived as a species in so many ways. And when I took a look back at my own experience over what I would call the adult side of my career, which started about 5 miles from here in the early 80s at the dawn of the AIDS epidemic. I was like a lot of other healthcare workers when that epidemic started in 1981. I was sort of standing in the right place at the right time. And the sort of enormous immensity of that challenge required people to step out of silos, to cross across all kinds of disciplines, to find ways to deal with what was truly an enormous challenge. And we did that by calling each other on the phone. There weren't technology tools really, and we found each other by hearsay, word of mouth, and picking up the phone. And that little collective in 1981 turned into the amazing teams that ended up really making huge strides in that illness. And I took that experience, which spanned more than a decade, and I started applying it to everything else I did. And the work I do today at PopTech, which is also now a 21-year-old organization that started as a small network that really wanted to look at the impact of rapidly emerging technologies on people. What would that mean? What would all of this mean if you go back 21 years to privacy, connectivity, how we relate to one another as humans? And we took those early conversations and started applying our network and leveraging our growing network to how can we take this enormous talent we sit on and leverage it to look at big challenges that confront society today, not just here, but across the globe. And through all of that, we ended up having a wonderful opportunity to collaborate with the envisioning team at Microsoft, and Anton Andrews, who directs that team, and Harold Becker and Ming Lee, who you will meet later today, have really been wonderful partners in the journey that I would say has blended us and our teams, and we're just delighted to be here today to talk about our work and to invite you to join us along the journey.
Thank you, Letha. Yeah, so Letha and I will be your hosts today. I'm Anton. I run the envisioning team, as Letha said. And we're looking forward to, I think, a great morning of speakers and then some really good interactive sessions in the afternoon. And Marion has already started playing with one of the walls back there. So you'll get a chance to do that in the break. Did everyone get coffee? You all coffeeed up? Got enough breakfast? Fantastic. All right, so thank you, first of all, for being here. We're all busy, so thanks for taking a day out of your lives to come and network with us. We, at Office Envisioning, we look at productivity and the future of productivity in the changing world of work. And, you know, talking with Letha a few years ago, we decided to sort of make this an open investigation rather than doing it behind closed doors. And so we've been working on this for a few years now. We've been interviewing practitioners, experts, thought leaders, movers and shakers all over the world. And we've made all of that available publicly, and this is part of that same rolling process. And so you're here today, again, this is going to become publicly available. And so I think there's a URL that we'll show in a second. So if you go to that website, you'll find a lot of the work that we've done to date is up there. You can also go to the PopTech website, same thing. PopTech Editions. We recently did a salon on super creativity. That's all up there too. So why are we doing this? We think there are some really big shifts and changes happening in the world of work. And not just, when I say world of work, it's not just enterprises and organizations, but just how humanity achieves things, how we tackle our big challenges. And we both believe, I think quite sincerely, that tomorrow's challenges, the impending challenges, are going to be more complex and more difficult, and are going to require us to step up to them in a way that the way in which we work today can't really manage. And so when we look at that, today there's a Gallup poll that comes out every year that basically says that 70% of all people in the workplace are completely disengaged. So 30% of us are engaged in the work we do. That's terrible. And work is such an important emotional part of everybody's lives. You spend 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours. I don't know how many hours a day you spend at work. Probably a lot. And yet we come away disengaged from something where we really want to contribute. We want to do something significant, especially when we look at the younger population coming into the workplace now. We want to be recognized. We want to make a difference. And at the same time, we're sort of worshiping this cult of efficiency. And we've been worshiping the cult of efficiency for about 100 years now, ever since the Industrial Revolution, ever since Frederick Winslow Taylor showed up with his stopwatch at the workplace. And we optimize everything. We teach our managers this way. We run our factories this way. We run our organizations this way. We even educate our children this way. We optimize everything around efficiency, around doing the same thing repetitively at scale with maximum efficiency in this very mechanistic way. And it's all about squeezing margins out. And that may have made sense at the time, and it may have made sense for quite a while, but it simply doesn't make sense anymore. And the reason it doesn't make sense anymore is that when we look at the world, it's becoming more interconnected. There's more data, more information. I mean, a car today produces 100 gigabytes of data a second. It's unbelievable. So when you look at your business or your network or the network fighting AIDS or whatever that is, there's just enormous amounts of data being produced. How do you handle all of that? We're more interconnected, there's more data, and then finally technology is advancing at a much more rapid rate than it ever has before. Some people say it's exponential. And so when you put those things together, we end up with what we're seeing now, which is a very uncertain, unpredictable world. And when things are uncertain, unpredictable, and changing all the time, changing very rapidly, if what you're focused on is efficiency, you can find yourself locked in, and you can be very efficiently doing the wrong thing. It was the right thing yesterday, but it's the wrong thing today because the world just keeps changing. And so how do we respond to this? How do we survive? We believe, and Ben Weber's going to be up in a minute, we believe this is a survival question. And it's not just the survival of organizations that traditional hierarchies can't keep up with this pace. So if hierarchies can't keep up with the pace, that's one thing. But then it's also the world at large. Like, how do we gather around tomorrow's challenges and meet them head on? And so we believe when we look at this and we interview people around this, the word that keeps popping up for us is networks, as you just saw in the video. And so we believe that networks, provide new strategies. Collaborating is obviously much better than struggling alone when you simply can't get your head around all of the information and data that's available. Networking and trust are better strategies than protectionism. Pushing decision-making to the edges where everyone has a sense of the common purpose and you're empowering people at the edges to make decisions is faster than command and control and results in a more engaged workforce. So all of these things really point towards networks as something tremendously valuable. And we thought that it would be really interesting just to kind of supercharge the discussion around networks and bring a whole variety of different network perspectives to the table this morning and today. And so I think we have a very interesting set of speakers lined up. There are a lot of questions when we think about networks, and that's why this event is called Tensions. because there is no ideal network, there is no average network, there is no perfect network that works for everything. And so this idea of tensions is going to be really important. And as we go through the morning, think of questions that you'd like to ask the speakers. We're going to make this a very interactive day. This is a salon event, after all, so we're sort of going to ask you to engage with the speakers and also in the afternoon. And one quick logistics thing, you will have these name tags, and on the name tag there's a little badge. Do not lose that badge, because that is your table for this afternoon. So there are some exercises we're going to do with buttons and so on, but don't take this one off. You need this one. Harold and Ming Lee have some fun exercises lined up for you guys in the breaks as well, and we'll introduce those as we sort of roll forwards.